What's up guys, it's Reed Young, aka Shooter here. I'm going to review a 100 no limit hand for you guys. We're at a 6 max table and we have Ace King pre-flop, which is awesome. We start out by min raising the button, which I think is fine. Stylistic choice in a 6 max game. Usually you can make an argument for raising larger based on your opposition or any number of factors, but the main focus of this hand is that we end up facing an overbet of about twice the pot you guys can see on the river, and we're trying to figure out whether or not we should call. So first off, let's consider all the variables and then we'll go from there. The hero continuation bets, which you should definitely do with a hand this strong on the flop, top pair, top kicker, backdoor nut flush draw, certainly the right play. We get check raised and we call. I think that's fine. I could see 3-betting the flop as well, but with the ace of clubs, we do block some nut flush draws, so maybe our opponent doesn't have as many bluffs in his range because of that. But also, you got to think, is he playing 7-4? Probably not. Is he playing king 7 or king 4? Probably not. But we did min raise pre-flop, so you need to weigh that in and consider how many straight draws or flush draws he's going to have compared to those value hands in his raising range, and then how Ace King does against those hands when you 3-bet. So, for instance, if we 3-bet, is he going to shove any of those straight draws or flush draws, or is he only going to continue with such a strong range like 2-pair or better that 3-betting would just be a poor play? So you can figure out your average opponent type for a $100 buy-in game here. It's also worth noting that this is a Zoom table, so all these players, while they may have had hands with each other at the quote-unquote same table, the tables are rotating, so we don't really have too much metagame going on here, and that means that most people are going to lean toward an exploitive play if they think they can get away with something against the average player. And I guess on average that means more bluffs in spots where our range appears capped or weak, and just some trickier plays in general. So we get check raised on the flop. We do decide to call, which I think is fine. Like I said, if he is bluffing more than average, we can kind of give him some rope to hang himself here and get some more money in the pot with a good hand. So we maximize value this way, and that's certainly a good thing. The turn is awesome because it's an ace, so if he was semi-bluffing us with a hand like ace 8 or just something else where he didn't really feel comfortable check calling, but he thought his equity was pretty good, so he could check raise and try to take down the pot. Or if we bet call a hand like queen 7 on the flop, then he still has some equity and can continue fairly confidently and maybe represent clubs, or just see how the hand plays out from there. Maybe give up some of the time, maybe keep bluffing. Anyway, he could have worse value bets in his range now on the turn, certainly. So he bets about 2/3 the pot and we call. The river is the jack of diamonds and he goes all in for twice pot, or thereabouts, just a little bit less than twice pot. And the hero's question is, should he call or should he fold? I think because our hand is underrepresented and we expect to see a few more bluffs, that would make us lean toward a call. There just really aren't going to be stronger hands in our range here. But also we have to think about what hands are we blocking, if any, and I think the hands that would play this way that could overbet shove here would almost never be a hand like king 7. So really it's going to be stuff like pocket 4s, pocket 7s, or queen 10 of clubs. So that's the value range we're looking at, and what we have to do here is consider our average opponent and if he's actually balancing this overbet with bluffs. And I highly doubt that his overbetting range here is optimal if it's balanced. So if he's value betting and bluffing with a proper ratio of hands here. What he does know though is that our range is pretty much capped, especially if we do have a reasonable 3-betting flop range here at around ace-king or ace-7, ace-4, something like that. Maybe we had ace-4 of spades and made a looser flop call. I think that's certainly a defensible play here. What he also knows about our range is we almost never have queen-10, and if he does have a hand like queen-8 of clubs, he knows that we pretty much never do have queen-10. So the light's green there for him to bluff, and he's blocking a lot of our nuts range. What we know about him is he could have a lot of semi-bluffs here, and it's going to be difficult in his eyes for us to call a twice pot shove bet with the bulk of our range, that being a hand like king-9 offsuit, somewhere in that camp. That's, I think, what our hand most seems like after we call the turn bet. So I would be wary about calling this particular bet, given that it's a $100 buy-in game and we're playing Zoom. I don't think it's going to be balanced. And I just think it's a good spot for him to bluff to try to fold out a king. But on the other hand, we have to think like, okay, if he bets like $42 here, is that going to have a drastically different effect than going all in for twice the pot? In other words, are we going to be folding a king to twice the pot, putting ourselves in that exploitive mindset? Are we going to be folding that much more often to twice the pot? And I think the average answer for 100 no limit will be yes, and that makes me want to call here. So let me know what you guys think about this video. If you can share it with a poker buddy and hit that like button, we will keep growing. And I want to do a special video for you guys once we get up to 300 subscribers. So the more sharing you do, the quicker we'll get there. All right, take care, guys.